Hey there, this is Hunter with The Kingdom Business Owner. I'm with my good friend Jim Harrington, and today we talk about vision and setting impossible vision. We talk about that. We also talk about merger, acquisition, church, a gamut of different things. Tune in today to The Kingdom Business Owner. All right. Well, hey, Jim Harrington, my good friend, man. Thanks for making it on the Kingdom Business Owner podcast.
Good to be here.
Yeah, man. We've known each other for a couple years now. Actually, probably more than that. We played basketball together for a long time.
I think since the teens.
Yeah, for sure, man. You have got quite the jump shot. You're scrappy, but more than that, you're a follower of Jesus, husband, father, serial entrepreneur, merger acquisition guy, and just a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. And I'm just honored to call you friend. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, man.
Likewise.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for being here. Give us, outside of the high level highlight reel that I just gave, give us the 60-second version of who is Jim Harrington.
Sure. So as far as work goes, I'm the CEO of Vincero Solutions. As far as my home life, I'm married, have a beautiful wife, Jennifer, and 7 kids and 1 grandkid. And then, I've been a passionate follower of Jesus since when I was 11 years old. I gave my life to Jesus and have been following him since.
Let's go, man. Let's go. You've had, obviously quite the journey with 7 kids and 1 I mean, that's, man, you got a full quiver and legacy, and I know some of your kids and they're rock stars. So let's maybe start there. Man, how did you get to the point where you have such great kids? What did you do? Give us the special sauce.
Yeah, man. A lot of that is just simply listening to good people.
Yeah.
I think always ask the question, who is it that is getting good results and who do I want to imitate? And so there's a lot of things we've tried, a lot of saying I'm sorry and starting over and maybe saying, hey, that didn't work. Let's try something different. Being able to make a unique parenting path for each of your kids and not feel like you have to be 100% consistent. I think that's a lie that maybe has tripped me up at times, but it's not a good thing. Each kid is unique and you want unique parenting for each one.
It's good. That's really good. I think the same thing is probably true for business in terms of, man, who you surround yourself, who you want to imitate is crucial. And so you've had quite the entrepreneurial journey as well. You bought a business, you scaled it, you sold it, and now you're in the thick of running this business that you sold. Walk us through that journey, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast have aspirations of either acquiring more companies or selling their business. And so, man, we just want to learn. Give us the journey and also the things you wish you would have known as well.
Yeah. Well, I'll say the best thing in both parenting and business is to have a real clear vision about where you're going. I had a friend who gave a parenting talk, or actually a weekend away, called Getting Your Family to Mars. And he basically used the example of, if you physically had to get your family to Mars, all the things you'd do, all the preparation you do, all the people you'd work with to do something that incredible. And, and being a successful business owner, being a successful Christian in the business world, takes that kind of long-term vision about where do you need to get to. And then all the things you have to do, all the people you have to work with to get there. It's an incredible journey, and knowing where you're going at the start is super important. And then along the way, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My dad had a greenhouse business when I was growing up, and that's what I grew up in, was seeing him scrap and claw and try to survive, to try to feed his family. I grew up working, hardworking in that world, the world of food, basically. And that trained me a lot in the kind of the scientific world. It prepared me for the scientific world, which is really where I went to. But I kind of knew that I wanted to work for myself, or I wanted to be the one that could ultimately help define what that vision is. And so once I understood that I really was truly wired as a visionary person, and I saw where I wanted to go with the business, and that getting the right people around me to help me achieve that vision was crucial. I cannot do a lot of things. I'm not a very organized person. I really need people that have a different set of analytical skills than I have, et cetera. So understanding what's necessary to achieve that ultimate vision, and then going and finding those people, going and finding the resources to bring those people aboard and make that team work. And then to be able to get out of the way of your team and let them do what they do best.
Yeah.
So in many ways, a successful family and a successful business are very similar.
Yeah.
And having that long-term vision about where you're going and why you're doing what you're doing is crucial.
So good. I love that analogy of getting your family to Mars and how that it would dictate and change everything.
It would, yeah.
I'm reading this book right now, The Science of Scaling, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Are you familiar with Benjamin Hardy?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I love, all of his books feel very similar of like 10X is easier than 2X, which is, it's so much easier to set an impossible goal and shrink the timeline on when you need to achieve it, like getting to Mars or whatever it is. Because if it's a huge goal, you have to change everything. If you're just doubling your business, you're wanting to like just slightly change your family trajectory, then like you don't have to change that many things.
Great leaders throughout the ages have done this. This is like when JFK said we're going to get to the moon by the end of the decade.
Yeah.
It suddenly mobilized all of American economy toward achieving that, and we have so many good outgrowths from that. It wasn't just getting to the moon, it was all the IT developments, all the understanding of the fundamentals of science about how to get into space and be able to automate and robots, etc. All that came out of that.
Yeah.
Less than a decade, let's achieve something incredible.
Well, and he put a strict deadline on it. He said, hey, we're getting there in 7 years.
Yeah.
Which at the time was like that. We're like 50 years out from that. He's like, no, you have 7 years. And like, yeah, that is the case study on why having this impossible goal with a crazy deadline changes everything. Because then you get laser focus and you cut out all the things that are distractions.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really good. How did that apply to you buying a business and selling a business? What did that look like?
Sure. Well, I've worked in the environmental industry for 30 plus years. And some of that was, when the Exxon Valdez oil spill happened in 1990, I got involved as a college student. And I've done various kinds of environmental projects since then. I worked on the Aaron Brockovich site, which some people might know, got into a movie. But yeah, doing those incredible, large-scale environmental cleanup projects really gave me an appetite for trying to achieve great things using the power of microbes as much as anything. That's where my history really is in microbiology. And so as I began to do that, I realized that the only way that innovation could truly be successful is if I owned a company that also did a lot of things beside innovation really well. Oh. And then the credibility you get from delivering the routine, ordinary work allows you to step into the world of innovation and do things that are innovative and creative in such a way that people will take you more seriously. And so I did for a long time. I worked in the world of innovation and tried to push doing things that were new and incredible the first time. And there was some success with that, but I became way more successful once I bought my own company or worked with people that really believed in what I was doing. And I did work inside of a mining company for a long time and ran their environmental division, but there wasn't a full alignment of vision at times about what we were trying to do, and their priorities were really more in the mining world. And so it came to a place where both the CEO and myself agreed we really need to go separate ways and to truly make a dedicated business out of the environmental business that I was running. And so at that point, I had to figure out, going back to my early days as an entrepreneur, well, how can I now afford a business that has 80 to 100 employees and doing more than 10 million a year in revenue? And so fortunately, I had enough good relationships with people in the business world that they believed in what I had to do in terms of how I ran the business, the kind of vision I was putting forward about what the company would accomplish and what we would do, that I was able to get some pretty good investment. And I had a good banker relationship here that a good friend of mine put me in touch with, and we were able to put the financing together to buy the company out and become independent. And that happened in the 2018 to 2020 period. Wow. And we became independent and ran our own company for a time starting in February of 2020. It was not the best time, but certainly allowed us to go through that early pruning phase of what do we not do so that we can truly value what we really do. And so in some sense, I see that early COVID stage as a real detriment and a difficulty we had to overcome. But there was also some benefit to having hit the independent stage when you had to then say, okay, what's really important now? And so in some sense, that really became a catalyst for the growth that we then had after.
So good, man. I love that. You took over the business. You're leading 100 to 150 people in this organization. Man, what was coming up out of you, like in your walk with Jesus, as you took this thing over, COVID hit, you're leading all these people. What was your walk with Jesus like then?
Well, I would say I have been, like I say, a Christian since I was 11, and generally been around religious people all my life. And my life does go through somewhat of cycles of a natural secularization, followed by periods of re-engagement with the Lord. And so, yeah, somewhat through the 20 teens, I had gone through a period of, I would say, slow secularization. And COVID really challenged me. My church shut down. We stopped meeting for a time in person. And my kids really challenged me. They're like, Dad, we know you've been this way before. When are you going to step up and lead us?
Wow.
And that was hard for me to hear from my kids.
Wow.
And so, yeah, there was I would say, a rediscovery of the power of the Holy Spirit, and that it's not just a power, it's also a person who wants to be with me and is with me all the time, and I can either ignore him or I can engage with him. And through that time, there was essentially somewhat of a recommitment to walking with the Spirit. And then in that time also, there was a bit of a challenge to say, okay, so the church isn't doing what the church is supposed to do. What am I going to do about it? And so there was a commitment for me to step up and say, I'm going to have house church in my home and try to be the church, live the church out in my day-to-day life. And so, yeah, right alongside with becoming an independent business owner, there was that recommitment. There was a challenge, and then the stepping back up again to say, yeah, this is really important to me, and I don't want to live my life as if my power is the only power that matters.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, anything you do in your own strength, in the end, is really worthless.
Yeah.
And so the only things that are eternal are people in the end. And so there was that understanding of the importance of people, both in my business as well as in the people surrounding me in the community. And that little house church we started at that point, that really gave me that fresh energy that allowed me to push through those first, I would say, 2 years that were really tough in running the business.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good, man. It's so easy when things get really hard in business to like hunker down. I'm going to pull myself up by my own bootstraps. I'm going to rely on my own power. And then eventually, like what happened to you, just kind of get brought to your knees. It's happened to me a couple of times in business where I'm like, man, I'm exhausted. I can't. I thought I could pull myself back up. I can't. I just am realizing how weak I am. Our
natural mindset is to do things in our own power.
Right.
And to get up and say, hey, God's made me a strong man. I'm going to go out and do what a strong man does and work super hard and be innovative and creative and overcome obstacles. And you naturally tend to think in my own strength because that's what your flesh is wired to do. And so it takes very much a choice to say, I'm not going to do this on my own strength, and I'm going to rely on something that's above and beyond me. So it's not simply my own ability to accomplish this. And in the end, that's what really makes it worthwhile. Otherwise, all we're going to do is we're going to produce a secular product. And it may be recognized by this world as being successful, but it's not really long-term successful.
It's really good. So you took over this company, felt a call to like step back into leadership, like lead the family, get back into real union with the Holy Spirit, start leading this house church. And then you get to the point where you're selling the business. Talk to us about that. What do you wish you would have known going into that? The things you would have done differently? Because obviously there's a lot there in a span of a couple of years.
Yeah. So I really wished I didn't have to have sold my business when I did. In retrospective perspective, everything happens at the right time. So, in the one hand, I would say I wished I didn't have to, but there was good and there was right in it. So I'm just going to go along with it, and hopefully someday I see what God's bigger picture was. But we agreed to finance our buyout of the business using a 5-year financial facility that allowed us to take a lot of money in and pay it back over that 6th and 7th year. And when we when we looked at that overall process, we said, that gives us a lot of time to build the business up, and then we'll be able to afford it. We had a project that should create a lot of money at that point and would have helped fund that repayment. That project got delayed because of COVID, and so it quickly became apparent that it wasn't going to fund the buyback or the payback of that initial kind of a loan-like financial facility. And so in the end, it became apparent we got to refinance this. And so I spent a lot of time, kind of year 3 and year 4, looking for ways to refinance and not sell the company. But I also have recognized that a lot of what we do requires scale, and that in order to do the things I really ultimately wanted to do, that I needed to partner with someone to achieve the scale, and that there is a right scale for the size of business I want to run. And so in the long run, we found a partner, True Environmental, that ended up buying us out and also helping us get to that next scale. And so right now I'm working with them, for a period of time to try to scale up the business to the full scale that I believe is the right scale for this type of company and for the type of work we do. We really are focused on a North America-wide, mining-focused environmental business. A lot of the same processes that you approach in the environmental world also apply into the world of power or the world of industrial chemicals or those kind of things too. And so there's a lot of benefits that go outside of mining into those other arenas. But I quickly realized that as we were looking to refinance, it was going to be very difficult to refinance, and that we could achieve that scaling vision much more quickly and maybe with a lot less risk.
Yeah.
And when you have people working and taking a paycheck home, risk is the last thing you want, right?
100%, 100%. Yeah, especially with that many families on the line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes the vision ends up looking a little bit different than you initially thought,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's I've been a part of, your journey of you selling and learning about like kind of the ins and outs of it. And man, it sounds like even though there are things that you maybe wish could have gone differently, it feels like you really honored God throughout the process, man. And feels like the vision is coming to fulfillment, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit, because one of the things that you gave me a book a year ago that is business focused, but it's also ministry church focused. It's called Brave Cities. And this book really shifted some things for me as I was reading it, convicted me. There were things that I like wrestled with, disagreed with. Like, it just brought up all the emotions as I'm reading this book.
Yeah.
I want to spend some time here because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are at our scale of business and also passion for ministry, and how to combine the two, both your faith and your business, and how do the two join together and make a church. What does that look like?
Yeah.
So can you just riff a little bit on what is the Brave Cities theology or philosophy, and how can the average business owner maybe apply it to their company?
Sure. Well, a lot of us have a default belief system, that is to say that my work time is secular and my church time is spiritual.
Right.
And I know that that's being heavily challenged right now, and I fully agree that everything we do is spiritual.
Yeah.
In fact, I think one of the most amazing verses where Jesus said, "My Father's always been working and I'm also working," it essentially defines work as something that he owns.
Right.
And he's asking us to join into his work. And that doesn't mean church work. It doesn't mean business work. It just means work.
Yeah.
It goes back to the garden when work was, in some sense, cursed. With, you're going to go through thorns and thistles and sorrow in order to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in this world.
Yes.
But Jesus also redeemed that. So that's where you have to start from, is to say there isn't a division. And I just want to say that I'm taking that as a given right now. And then there's a verse that's a really key verse that I would say creates the mindset of the Brave Cities world, which is to say, when the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. And the application of that in this arena is to say that prospering, both economically, spiritually, socially, all the different spectrum that we live in, prospering itself blesses our city, blesses the economy, blesses our nation, and that the best thing we can do for everyone is to prosper. And so I think that prosperity, there's a so-called prosperity gospel that people have used, and it has been misapplied. And I don't want to say I'm believing that either, but I will say that the very best thing that I can do, because of the way I'm wired, the gifts God's given me, is to run a really, really good business.
Yeah.
And what does it say? Jesus went around doing good. That doing of good in our world is the definition of what Jesus did. And it actually says in 1 Peter that you'll silence the people that speak evil against you by just doing good. And so when we start thinking about how we grow business and what we do with our business, just simply accomplishing a lot of good in our world does end up creating the spiritual impact. And so what I believe now is that God has wired all of us and given us different unique gifts, and that because in my mind, there is not a separation between the work world and the church world, that the very best things that Christians can do to impact their world around them and to be a witness for Jesus is to run a really, really good business.
Yeah.
And that what I'm dreaming for, what I'm hoping for, is that separation between my mentality of I go to church on a Sunday versus I go to work on a Monday, that really what it's saying is I'm doing good for the Lord. I'm doing hard work on a Sunday or a Monday. Now, obviously, there's a difference in the Christian space. You also get rest. But I'd also believe in the work world, the most effective work you can do is appropriately resting at times.
Yes.
And so again, I think that we have to somewhat shift our minds and essentially say, God chooses when I work and when I rest, and that he gives me the power to produce wealth, the power to succeed, the power to prosper, the power to be in good health. All of those come from the Lord, and so long as we acknowledge him in everything we do and we give thanks in everything we do, then it protects us from starting to be that very secular mindset. And in the end, the Brave Cities concept is if you get a number of people that are agreeing to be physically together and to run business using this mindset together, that the church grows and becomes a living thing out of that collection of Christian businesses. Yeah. So I don't know exactly how that's going to ultimately get rolled out and applied in my world. I'm wrestling with that right now. I'm wrestling with some really good friends that I'm talking about what we can do in our city here. But I do believe that the very best thing that we can do in the long run is run really, really successful, good businesses that are accomplishing true good in this world. And that out of that, the church will actually advance.
So good. That's so good, man. I love that you gave some context too, that this is what God has called you to in the way that he's wired you. Because not everyone is wired to be an entrepreneur and being a visionary and to steward a lot of wealth. That's not everyone's call. Some people have different calls, and that's okay. But for most of our viewers, it's really, that's their, I know for myself and for other people listening, there's at times probably been like some guilt or some like, man, I'm a JV Christian because I'm not like, I'm not on staff at a church, or I'm not fundraising a missionary. But it's like, no, in reality, man, God wired us to start, create, and build businesses, and in turn really pour into people. And man, there's a lot of fruit there. I think one of the things that I was really blessed by with this Brave Cities book is, just the like freedom to you really use the business as a vehicle and as a tool for good, and not just good, but like loving my neighbor good. That's really the like epitome of why we create good businesses, so that way I can love my neighbor really well. I got a cup of coffee with a guy yesterday who was sharing that he's like, man, I'm just really wanting to commit my business to God. I'm going to put, changing my logo, I'm putting a cross in the logo, and I'm going to go all in on being the Christian business guy. And I was like, dude, I think you're making a mistake. I think instead you should just have the best business in Fort Collins in your industry, and you don't need a cross in your logo. Like,
if you have to tell people you're a Christian, you probably are not living right.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that that's not to put down ever speaking up for the Lord, but I also think that the power of our words comes from what we do.
Yeah.
And our credibility in the rest of our life makes it so that when we do speak, people will listen.
Yeah. Right. I mean, our business really gets to be a witness, and the only way it can be a witness is if it's excellent. I mean, I'm constantly wrestling with this dichotomy of where does excellence play a role in evangelism? Like, if I'm pretty poor at most things, I think I'm gonna have a hard time relating to people, especially initially. I mean, I think that can overcome through good character over time. But initially, man, if there's not excellence, how can you ever be a witness? Excellent in business, excellent in whatever sphere you're in. Like, how can you really build relational equity with people if it's just pretty subpar?
Well, I think a lot of that comes back to, are you living within the gifting that God's given you? And are you fully allowing him to develop those talents? So Jesus has given us talents, and he's made it clear that he wants us to multiply them.
Yeah.
And so if we are living out the full extent of what his design is for us, then there is a charisma to that. There is a drawing in that people want to be around people that are multiplying.
Yeah.
Growth is in itself a good thing because it creates the ability to bless out of your excess, out of your overflow. And so I would say that having that mentality of, I am growing, I am not shrinking back, and doing that in every phase of your life, whether that's in your family, your marriage, your business world, whatever the application is, and growing and overflowing into the other parts of your life, then people are blessed with that overflow and they want to join in.
Yeah.
It just instinctively, we know when something is dying, shrinking back, then you just want to get away from it. You don't want to be drawn into that. And so the most important thing we can do is allow for that increase that the Lord has just built into our work to happen. It's the power of the Lord to give wealth, and in all labor there's profit. So
it's really good.
So let the profit happen. And again, people want to be part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really, really good, man. What do you say to the entrepreneur that is thinking about buying a company, thinking about selling a company, maybe feels like their back is against the wall, feel like they're maybe in that the secularism that you talked about that you faced during 2020, that they feel themselves like pulling back in that. What do you say to that? What do you say to the entrepreneur?
Well, if you're in the stage of considering whether to buy or sell, I do think you need to have either yourself or go find people that can help you develop the right vision.
Yeah.
Because I would say vision is the most important starting point. If you have clarity of what you're doing and why, then it allows for all those other things to flow from that.
Yeah.
And so, the part where it says seek first his kingdom, and then all these things will be added. So if what we're doing comes from that initial right motive, then there will end up being a clarity in all the other decisions we need to make. So I would say first get your vision right. And if you feel like I'm muddling through in the vision arena, then if you can't develop it yourself, spend the time trying to develop it yourself and find the people around you that help envision you. Now, I'm going to say very many people in the vision space have their own agenda. And so you need to be really careful that you're not just going to someone else and they sell you on their vision.
Right. That's really good.
You have to go and find the vision that is unique to the talents, the wiring that you have, the way that you are made, and to recognize that in many cases, the things that you don't have, you need to have the right team around you.
That's really good.
So I see a lot of people that are in that unhappy entrepreneurial stage is because they really are lacking the pieces around them that enable them to be successful. When I was running my business, I always thought about those little kid potato head dolls. And, they have the put in the eyes and the ears and the nose and all the different, things and hair and glasses, etc. And I always felt like, we're like half filled in and we need to add all those other parts. And so I kind of had a pretty clear picture when I was going to start. What are the things that we need to add in order to be a fully mature, grown, and have all the pieces that we need? That's the vision part. What is it you're trying to achieve? And goes back to that getting your family to Mars thing we started with. Get really, really clear on where you're going and why you're going there and what good you're going to accomplish by doing that. And then maybe it is right to sell your business at that point because what you have built to that point isn't meeting the purpose for you. Or maybe what you need to do is get the right investment or get the right partnerships or maybe merge with someone else. And so there certainly are ways of essentially taking what you have and taking it to the next step, a lot of different ways. But be willing to go through the process, the hard work of having the right vision, and then say, what do I then need to get there to the next step? And it may mean hard cuts. It may mean choosing to bring in the right investor. It may mean deciding to partner with other people. It's going to look different for each case.
It's really good, man. That's actually practical and helpful. Yeah, man, I love that. Let's land the plane with this, with what God's really put on your heart, with the journey that you've been on, especially the last 5 years. What's the main encouragement that you have for the kingdom entrepreneur? Because you and I, we're in foundry groups. We're interacting with a lot of different Jesus following entrepreneurs, and we see a theme probably throughout. What do you feel like is the main encouragement that you have?
Yeah, I think excellence in what we do is the starting point. If we can be excellent at what we do, and oftentimes that means, again, understanding yourself, understanding how you're wired, and be willing to not do the things that you're not good at or you're not wired for, so that the things you do, you can be excellent in. Yeah. And once you go through that pruning process, Jesus said you'll be very fruitful. And so I would really encourage people to not shrink back from the right kind of pruning, and to be able to live within the vision that you are wired to be. And if you can get there, then all the other things that that you hope to accomplish in your life, either God will rewire you into desiring the right things. It's, that verse that says, he'll give you the desires of your heart. In many cases, it means he'll make the desires.
He'll purify those desires
the right way, right?
Yeah.
But he will give it to you, if you delight in the Lord. And so it does go back to having your vision right and to find delight in the Lord. And then all the other stuff comes out of that. And then you overflow with how you speak. You overflow with your hard work. You overflow with the relationships, and that people truly find a blessing out of that overflow. But if your heart isn't right and you're not in the right space that God's put you in, no matter how hard you work, no matter how creative you are, no matter all the things you think you're doing that will be good for people, you won't be overflowing. One of my favorite verses, actually there's 2 different times that Jesus said it, that talks about out of your belly will flow a river of living water. And that's the way people should be experiencing around us. I always joke that people should be getting wet being around us, right? Because we're just overflowing with
really good.
The fruit of the Spirit. And so, yeah, that out of the overflow of your life is where I believe that we will have the true success.
So good, man. So good. Well, Jim, honored to know you, honored to call you friend. Thanks for just an incredible conversation talking about, we talk about merger acquisition, we talk about church, covered a lot of different things, but I do believe that your testimony is, convicts and inspires and encourages me. And so I know it'll bless other people, man. So thanks for being willing to have a vulnerable conversation about business and faith.
Can I say one other thing?
Please.
I believe that we have to embrace the uniqueness that God made us. And that because we're socially wired creatures, we often try to imitate others. We look at someone else as being successful and we try to imitate them.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily understand that we may only see the external successful part and they really struggle and they're fighting it. Or maybe they truly are successful, but they're just wired different than us. And so I just really would like to encourage, despite the fact that God has socially wired us, to try to imitate, to allow us to also recognize that imitation isn't the way to be successful.
Right.
That God has a unique path for you, and you can be inspired by others, but imitation is not necessarily going to get you there.
It's really good. I think that's one of the gold piece nuggets about the Foundry is that when you get around other guys who are running companies who on the outside look really successful, and then you really crack it open and you're like, oh man, you're a mess and I'm a mess. And so it's why it feels so good sometimes to be in a Foundry group, because so often I'm like, it was worth it today just to hear that other people are struggling with the same payroll issues that or HR issues or marketing issues or whatever that I'm dealing with. And so, yeah, completely agreed. Although we want to be around people who we admire, imitation isn't just the only way to get there. I want to be around authentic people. And also, like you said, God has wired me in a very specific way and has a very specific journey for me. And so being a part of a community with other people who can speak into that is gold.
Yeah. Amen.
So good. Jim, anything else? Any other?
No, that's good.
All right, man. Grateful to have you on the pod. And hopefully, again, we'll have you on another episode, man. Thank you.
Sounds good.